Hello Year 8. Today we are working on the introductions for our text response essays. Now everybody will be working on a different introduction because it will have to be tailored to their essay, which is why I've done this video. So you can work at your own pace and go through each step as you need to, and if you need to go back and listen to a step you may do that, or raise your hand and I will come around and help you with a particular part of your introduction. That's the one we're working on today, and I think that's about page 4 of your booklet. So in front of you, you should have the booklet I gave out on Friday, which has a blank, on the front cover it has a picture of the novel Tomorrow When the War Began, and it says it's your planning booklet. You should have that in front of you, and you should be open to page 4 with a pen or a pencil in hand. You should also have written on page 3 the 3 arguments that you want to make about the topic you've been given. So they should be written on page 3. If they are not, you need to pause, finish writing those, and then come back and play this video. All right, I'm thinking that you're ready to go. You've got everything on hand, pen at the ready. The first sentence on the introduction sheet is the background information sentence, also known as the orientation. This means you're giving your reader, which will be Miss Brooks, myself, some awareness of the background of the text. So you're giving me a very brief 1-sentence overview of what happens to set the scene. So you might start with any of these 3 sentences here, or any of your own. You've made some up. They're already in your exercise book. If you have a look back at the one you stuck in from the introduction planning lesson last week, you will have one ready to go. So you're more than welcome to use that, or you can kick off and use a new one using these sentence starters here. So you might say, in John Marsden's Tomorrow When the War Began, 8 teenagers, what happens to them? What's the consequences? Sum it up in 1 sentence. You might alternatively say, Tomorrow When the War Began follows the journey of da da da. John Marsden's novel Tomorrow When the War Began depicts the experiences of, again, you need to mention the fact there's 8 teenagers, there's a war, an invasion, they have to fight, etc. 1 sentence, sum it up, pause the video and finish yours off, and then when you've done that, you'll be ready to move to the next section. The following sentence is your contention. Now this one you'll have to think about a bit more because it depends on what your prompt is. If your prompt is about how characters are coming of age, then you need to make an argument about how not just Ellie, because the question you have says many characters, you have to talk about how the characters either do or don't come of age in this book because of the experiences that they have. And you might agree that yes, they all grow up and come of age because of their experiences, or you might say that no, only some of them grow up and some of them don't. So that sentence needs to say something like, whilst Lee and Ellie are able to mature because of the painful hardships and challenges they face, other characters like Chris do not because da da da. However, you might just say many characters in Marsden's novel show great maturity towards the end of the novel as they have had to face da 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 da, and you can talk about hardships and challenges that they've faced. If you are answering the second prompt about sacrifice and survival, then you need to link it back to what that prompt is asking you, which it's saying, in order to continue to survive, the characters of Tomorrow When the War Began must learn to accept the consequences of their decision. Do you agree? So you need to say to what extent you agree that the characters in the novel, so it might be Ellie, it might be Robin, it might be Homer, or Corey even, do they accept the consequences of the decisions they have to make? And that means, do they accept that blowing up the soldiers with the mower was the right thing to do or something that they had to do in order to survive? The blowing up of the tanker, the escape of Lee, so the consequences that occurred when they were driving the tractor thing around in order to get him out of there, the council vehicle that was. You need to have a sentence that sums up yes or no, whether they accepted the consequences of the decisions that they had to make. The third one, if you're doing society and values, you're looking at this question here and you're saying, discuss the presence of right and wrong. So your sentence doesn't need to necessarily be an argument in this case right here. It needs to be hinting that you are going to explore. And you might say something like, Marsden suggests that right and wrong is not as simple in the case of war. And this is clearly evident, and you need to explain why it's evident and what he's trying to suggest about right and wrong in the war. Because it's not exactly the same as before the war, it changes. So you need to have a sentence that indicates that the idea of right and wrong has changed in war. So pause, write your sentence, and then come back to this video for the next section, which is your 3 arguments. All right. You've got your topic sentence, you've got your single sentence orientation, the introduction here. Then you've got your contention, which clearly states where you're going. Now that contention needs to be broken up into kind of 3 key arguments. What arguments will you make to prove your contention that maybe they mature because of the hardships they face, or that right and wrong are not the same, and that they are challenged and changed because of the war? Depending what your contention is will depend what your arguments are. You're thinking, well, where can I find my arguments? I'm not sure. Right, have a click on this document, this slides. These slides will be available on your email, and they will also probably on the S drive, depending how organized I am in the morning. But you click on any of these and they will take you to the documents I've been looking at here. So this one's the coming of age prompt, we've got sacrifice and survival, and we've got society and values. All right, in each one you'll see that there's a little table and it has here a potential topic sentence. Now, this one has quite a few. This one has, what have we got? 4. Society and values have 3, and I might add another one to that before class tomorrow, or 2. You need to pick 3. If of your own, you might already have 3 arguments and they should be listed on your brainstorm page on page 3 of your booklet. If you've got 3 clear ones and you're ready to go, you can use those to write your 3 arguments. And these would be either 3 single sentences listing each argument, or it might be one larger sentence that has 3 parts which are separated by commas to list the 3 different things. So it could look something like this, and this is the 3-part single sentence, and it says, some of these trials include having to act dangerously in order to survive. That should be survive. That's your first argument. Then watching her friends suffer before her, that's her second pain and suffering, your second argument. And finally, the third argument, becoming more resourceful as she must fend for herself without her family there to protect her. So in this essay, I would expect the first paragraph is going to be about how she has to act dangerously in order to survive. And it's going to link back at the end and show me how acting dangerously meant that she grew up. The next paragraph would be about watching her friends suffer before her. So you might talk about how Corrie suffered, Lee suffered, Homer, Kevin, anybody, and how that contributed to Ellie or any of the other characters growing up. Then finally, your third paragraph and your final body paragraph would show me how Ellie becomes more resourceful. So when does she become inventive with the things that she chooses to do and how they fight the war? How does she use all the skills that how does she use all the skills that she's obtained over her whole life to help her and her friends win the war? And she isn't the only one that's resourceful. You might think about Kevin or Robin or Corrie and how they are resourceful in order to defend for themselves without their families there to protect them. Because that question for coming of age asks you many characters. So in the example we did, we only looked at Ellie, but this question now asks you for many characters. So you can talk about different characters, and you should talk about different characters. All right, this one is a 3-sentence breakdown of the 3 arguments, and this one is for sacrifice and survival. You cannot use this word for word. You may use it for inspiration, but not word for word. Marsden uses the character of Ellie to force readers to question the ethics and politics of war. So that paragraph would be showing where Ellie is challenged in the ethics, and that means the way that she thinks about what's right and wrong and what's good and bad in the case of a war. When you're battling a war, rules change, and I would like to see some examples of how that happened for Ali. And you might think about the mower incident, for example, and how she had to behave in a way that she never normally would, and she wouldn't think is acceptable, but she had to save her friends. The second one, Ali experiences significant distress over the decision to fight in order to survive, despite Homer's reassurances that this is war now. So you could talk about her reflecting by the creek on her decision. You might talk about even the debate they have in their group with Robin, for example. But that whole paragraph would be about proving that the experience causes her distress, and you would have to highlight a couple of examples where the experience of war makes her challenge her views, and that causes her sadness or upset or anger or guilt. And then how, even though Homer says this, she still feels bad about it. So you would reuse that quote in that paragraph in the middle somewhere. Your third and final body paragraph would be about how Ellie acknowledges that despite her fear, she must find courage in order to fight back. So examples when she finds great courage in order to survive. So it might be things like, you could talk about the symbol of the light in that paragraph, for example, and how stepping out into the light she was transformed. Or even how she was very quick thinking in the moment with the mower, or even in the way that she quickly adapted her plans when they were saving Lee. Those are three good examples that you could use in that paragraph there. Okay, so now you need to pause the video. You should select your 3 arguments and sum them up in a single sentence. Now these are quite long, for example, in the coming of age one, so you can simplify those, but they are examples that you might use. The same with sacrifice and survival, and the same with society and value. So you can't copy these word for word, but you may use them as inspiration to write your own. Remember, they are 3 arguments that link to what the prompt is asking you. So it's about the characters experience pain and suffering, and they grow up. They have to learn to accept the consequences of their decisions, and about the idea of right and wrong. And that's a discussion more than an argument. Finally, you're moving on to your conclusion. So you should have paused by now, finished your 3 arguments, whether you've summed them up in 3 parts of one sentence, or if you've listed them as 3 single sentences, that's fine. And then you've got your final linking sentence. Now the purpose of this sentence is to just reiterate what your whole essay is going to be about, and summing it up with reference to what is in your prompt. So an example of one is here. Again, you cannot copy this, just use it for inspiration. All of these challenges, so this is related to the coming of age question, all of these challenges contribute to her development as an individual, a process which has been accelerated by the burden of war. Now, a way you could start your topic sentence is any of these ones down here. So we've got, although she finds it difficult, Ellie learns too. Or although the teenagers of Marsden's novel find it difficult, they learn too. And it might be about coming of age. Your second one might be about Marsden's novel. So this would be, sorry, not your second one, but the person doing a different question like sacrifice and survival. Marsden's novel illustrates how, and you must link to this idea about how we, or individuals in war, must learn to accept the consequences of our actions. If we are to survive, we must accept that things will change, that morals will have to be transformed if we are to survive, and accept them and live with ourselves because of that. Finally, if you are looking at the society and values question, your linking sentence might say something like, Marsden ultimately suggests that in the event of war, the idea of right and wrong can be transformed significantly, and what is right for one group of people, like the invaders, can be seen in a completely different light to the invaded, as in the teenagers and their families. So right and wrong is kind of a subjective idea. It depends who you are as to whether you think something is right and wrong. So you might say something like, Marsden highlights how the ideas of right and wrong depend upon the individual, and they are in fact a human invention. Therefore, there is no definite reason as to what a definite answer, as to whether something is right or wrong. Now that's a long sentence and it's a bit convoluted, so you need to simplify it a bit and think about how you're going to sum up your argument about the presence of right and wrong in the novel. All right, I'm going to stop there because we're already at 16 minutes, so that's plenty long enough. But you need to sum it up, and that should be the end of your introduction. From there, I will do another video and you will have a topic, sentence, and body paragraph video to keep you going. Good luck. Put your hand up if you need a hand.